I made one of these videos a couple weeks ago and I thought it was time for an update. I asked AI to pick me an FPL draft. Here's what it did. Now, before we get into the team, I just wanted to say that this video is brought to you by Fantasy Football Hub. You can use their AI team rating tool totally for free. Input your FPL team into the tool using my link in the description below and get an AI rating totally for free. Right, first up then, we've got the goalkeeper and defenders. It's interesting because there's a couple of players that I would say are pretty template amongst us FPL content creators and people I've seen on social media. And there's a couple of players that are missing from this draft. Number one is Rob Sanchez. He's probably the consensus goalkeeper I've seen on YouTube. He's not in this team. And also Virgil van Dijk as well, who I think is, you know, the community's, I would say, pick of the 6 million defenders. Well, actually, AI has gone for Guardiola and Verbruggen in Kelleher. I actually think this team looks nicely set up for a bench boost as well, because all of the players on the bench are going to start for their respective teams. Other defenders to note are Romero. Now, I've not seen Romero picked by anyone on YouTube so far. And I think he's an interesting one because I don't think he'll do too badly for defensive contributions. I think he'll have a lot of work to do defensively for Tottenham in terms of clearances, interceptions, etc. But I also think he carries with him quite a lot of goal threat, which might be why his expected points data is quite high, or higher at least than any of the other Tottenham defenders. He is a real threat from set pieces, is Romero. And when you think of the Tottenham fullbacks, obviously Pedro Porro's got some goal threat, but he's a little bit more expensive. I think Romero at 5 million could actually be pretty decent value. And yeah, like I said, I haven't seen him in too many teams. Guardiola, we all know what he can produce. You know, he's great in the air from set pieces. Man City actually have a really decent set of opening fixtures. Obviously, Tottenham in game week 2, usually a bit of their bogey team. I think overall their fixtures are pretty good. And I just think there's no way they don't improve on last season, right? So I think Guardiola could be in for a decent FPL points total. And yeah, I can see why AI has picked him. Van de Ven is quite popular amongst YouTubers' teams. I just think 4.5 million for a Tottenham defender. You know, Burnley at home up first is a decent fixture for a decent player, isn't it? Kelleher on the bench, I think, well, looking at the expected points, he's worse off than Verbruggen for game week 1, so it makes sense to go this way. I think if you're bench boosting right now, before Dubravka is confirmed as a Burnley player, this is probably the cheapest and the most sensible way to go for a goalkeeping double up, I would say, in 2 4.5s. For Labour, he had a really good season last year for Brighton just as a player in general. And he seems to be pretty good for defensive contribution points. I think the Fantasy Football Hub AI has picked up on that and picked him on the bench. Gahey from Crystal Palace, also very good for defensive contributions. I think he's just the leading sort of defender for Crystal Palace, isn't he? Whilst they don't have the best start in terms of fixtures, I think over the course of the season, he's going to prove to be really good value. And Esteve, that's how you pronounce it, of Burnley, I've got him in my draft. I just think if you're picking a 4 million defender for the long haul, he is the best. Burnley kept 30 clean sheets in the Championship last season, albeit some of those responsible, of course, of James Trafford, who's left for Man City. But I still think they're going to be defensively all right this season in the Premier League. And I think it suggests, you know, that many clean sheets suggests they're going to play in a certain kind of way in the Prem, right? They're going to play sort of defensive first, low block football, which I think means plenty of DEFCON points for their defenders. So can understand why the AI has picked him. And yeah, well, that's the goalkeeper, defense, and the bench. In the midfield of this draft then, and well, it's gone for some pretty popular players, I'd suggest. Salah, Palmer, and Njai. We see them in a lot of FPL teams across social media and YouTube, right? I think Salah, he's definitely the strongest captain for game week 1. And to be honest, I think Bournemouth, I'd worry for them, at least at the start of the season. I think I do back them to sign players to replace the likes of Zabarnyi, who looks to be off to PSG. That might have been confirmed by the time this video comes out. And Howson has obviously joined Real Madrid. I do back them over the long haul to fix or fill that hole. But in game week 1, I think they're going to be in a bit of trouble. And I think Liverpool at home, off the back of winning the title with their new players, I think they could score a fair few goals in that game. So yeah, it makes sense to go for Salah, I think, as captain. Cole Palmer, he's in pretty much every team I've made, pretty much every team I've seen on here as well. I mean, the fixtures for Chelsea are really good. I'm surprised there isn't some Chelsea defensive coverage in here. I think in the last AI team I saw, who was top? It was Cucurella who was the 6 million defender pick. So interesting there. Just Palmer from Chelsea in this draft, I believe. They got great fixtures. He's obviously the talisman. He's going to play every minute, takes penalties, free kicks. I back him to have a much better season than he did the back end of last year. That's Saka. AI is pretty hardcore on Saka, and I think that's partly down to the game week 2 fixture they've got against Leeds. He's got more expected points in game week 2 than Salah does, which potentially suggests he could be a better captain. Yeah, I do like Saka, don't get me wrong. I just wonder what the impact of Gyökeres is on Arsenal. You know, does he take penalties away from Saka, which I think is one of Saka's like redeeming features, I would say, or certainly makes him at the moment the best, well, did make him the best option from Arsenal. It's just whether he can, perform at that level or get enough FPL points without taking penalties, I suppose. Then you got Iliman Ndiaye of Everton. Now, I've seen a rumour linking him to Inter Milan. To be interesting to see if he actually stays at Everton. I've also seen a rumour today of Jack Grealish potentially, or Everton have made an inquiry about Jack Grealish as well. So, you know, before that happened, I would have suggested Ndiaye was the Everton talisman to play every game, every minute, take penalties. I think he probably remains the penalty taker, but I struggle to pick an Everton attacker, I've got to say, and particularly when there's potential competition coming in for his position, and he's also touted with a transfer away. I don't think that's actually much of a rumour there, but just be a little cautious of Ndiaye. I'm not sure, outside of penalties, how dangerous he's actually going to be. Now, on the subject of forwards, AI has actually picked Beto, which I think is quite interesting. I don't think I would go for him. I pulled a silly face then, but I really don't think I'd go for him myself. I think what it's done is worked out, you know, potential points if he does start compared to his price point. You know, I think if this guy was nailed on to start for Everton every game, I think 5.5 million is decent, but I don't think he is. You know, they've signed another striker, potentially competing for the spot. And I'm not convinced how good Beto actually is, to be completely honest with you. But, you know, if he does start at 5.5 million, I think he could be good value, but I'd probably just spend a bit more and get someone else, like Strand Larson, or just go up to 7.5, to be honest. For me, I'd probably pick Rodgers and maybe, you know, Strand Larson, something like that. But yeah, outside of that, we got Chris Wood and Mateta. No Solanke. I think at the moment AI is a little bit worried about Solanke's potential minutes. You know, he hasn't appeared yet in pre-season. So the question is obviously there, will he start game week 1 against Burnley? And they do have the Super Cup, I believe, the week before as well. So yeah, quite a lot of uncertainty, I'd say, opening up around Dominic Solanke as things stand. So AI's gone for Chris Wood and Mateta. Mateta had, I think, 14 goals in the Premier League last year. The Palace fixtures are not amazing to start, but I also think with the rumours of Eze potentially leaving, that's just going to carry on all summer, I think, leaving for Arsenal. That could open the door potentially for a new Palace talisman, and that could well be Mateta. Chris Wood. Question is, how many goals will Nottingham Forest score this season? I think the loss of Elanga is huge for them. They've done well to keep Gibbs White, but I think losing Elanga is massive, and I would question just how many goals they are able to score without him. I think it's going to take some adjustment. They've been solid defensively in pre-season, but have barely scored a goal. Chris Wood had 20 in the Premier League last year, so it's clear to see why AI is picking him, right, based on performances of last season. But I'd be a little bit concerned about the player they lost and their pre-season form. I do like Chris Wood. You know, 20 Premier League goals you can't argue with. But yeah, the current situation of Forest doesn't fill me with confidence. All right, and here are just the final scores on the doors with the team then. It's got nothing in the bank, so spent the full cash. 69.2 expected points, which I think for Game Week 1 is the highest figure I have seen without a bench boost being active. You can add the bench boost points yourself. I mean, what's that? 3, 7, 10, 12, maybe 14 extra points. So you're looking at, what, 85-ish points? 83, 84 points. Oh, my maths is wrong, but you get it. That sort of points if you bench boost it. I think it's pretty nice points total. And, of course, a 100% AI rating because AI have picked this team. So it makes sense that way. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of the team and if it's given you anything to think about in terms of players that you might want to pick. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that, found it useful. If you did, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments if it helps you at all looking at what AI has to say. Made you think about any players that you haven't necessarily thought about so far. And if you'd make any changes to the team, let me know in the comments as well. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just here on your screen. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in my next video.